Hi, it's Janelle with Parsnips and Parsimony, and it's almost noontime here, and I need to whip together some quick baking powder biscuits, and I'm going to show you guys how to do it really quickly and how to make wonderful baking powder biscuits for your lunch or dinner. My standard recipe came out of a Pillsbury paperback cookbook that I picked up years ago at a garage sale, and I have fallen in love with it. In fact, if you look at it, it's really beat up. Look at this thing. Well loved. But it has some of the best recipes, and our recipe is this one right here, baking powder biscuits. Now for our large family size of 8, I'm going to be doubling this recipe. I might have a few left over, but that's all right. I can always use them later on. Here are the ingredients for a double batch. You will need 4 cups of all-purpose flour, 6 teaspoons or 2 tablespoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 cup of shortening. I prefer butter. I think it makes a tastier biscuit. And 1.5 to 2 cups of milk. Now we're just going to play around with that until those biscuits are just starting to come together. And it depends on the day. Today it's raining and very humid today, so we might not be using quite as much milk as I would use on a dry winter day. But let's get going. We'll start with our 4 cups of flour. 1, 4, 2 tablespoons of baking powder. 1, 2, Gracie, what is Mommy making? Okay, we're gonna do a teaspoon of salt. I'm not gonna really measure this out. I just put some in my hand. That's about a teaspoon. Whew. We're gonna do 1 cup of shortening or butter. I am just using salted butter. You can use unsalted butter, whatever works for you. Make sure this is cold because we're gonna chop this up, and this is what's gonna make our biscuits light and flaky. Okay. Uh-oh, camera's moving. Baby Grace is getting, yes, you're moving our camera. Uh-oh, everybody's gonna miss what Mommy's doing. Kind of chop up the butter. This is going to make it easier to mix into the rest of your ingredients. We're going to add our cold butter right into here. And again, this is a cup of it. If you want to do a combination of the shortening or the butter, you can do that. Now I'm going to be using one of these pastry cutters. You can use 2 knives, a fork, but this really speeds up the process a lot. And all we're going to do is we're going to blend in that butter until it's kind of pea-sized chunks. You'll see it when it's done. You're just going to keep pushing the pastry cutter into the butter and see how it's breaking it into smaller and smaller pieces. Sometimes you need to just take a knife and loosen up those butter chunks that sticks to the side so you can keep blending that in. I know you're hungry, Gracie. All right, there you can see it's all done. There are going to be some chunks of butter like you can see right here, and that's okay. It's going to make a nice flaky biscuit. Now we're going to start with 1.5 cups of milk, but we might need to add more. Uh-oh, I just saw that I forgot 2 pieces of butter. That's okay, it's not gonna hurt anything. And what we wanna see here is this to start to come together. A little bit more moist than pie crust, but not too much more. Now this flour is not getting absorbed well, so I'm gonna add a little bit more milk. We don't want these to be drop biscuits. We want these to be just enough to pull together. All right, that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to just put some flour on the counter here. I'm going to dump this right onto my floured counter, just like that. And I'm going to put a little bit more flour on the top here. And I'm just going to knead this a few times just to bring this dough together. It's not much. Just like that. And it feels really lumpy because I can feel all those chunks of butter in it. There we go. Now we're going to roll it out. See all those wonderful chunks of butter all right here? And sometimes you need to lift this up and just put a little bit more flour so it doesn't stick to your counter. We don't want to roll these too thin because we want these to be nice fluffy biscuits so we can put some, for me I'm going to be putting some lunch meat on them today. Okay, that looks good for that first batch. And you can use a biscuit cutter. I'm going to be just using my measuring cup, no biggie. If you need to use a plastic cup or a glass cup, anything that's going to be round and has sharp edges. And this is key to making those biscuits rise nice and fluffy. Make sure it has sharp edges. This one is nice and sharp. Put it down and try not to twist it too much, just enough to lift it out. And here's our first biscuit, and we're going to keep doing this. Try to make the most of every bit of dough that you have, because the second time around the biscuit dough is going to start getting a little bit more tough the more you work it. So that's why it's key to use a light hand when you're cooking. The kids always like funny shapes like that. Alright, so now you're going to just take all your dough. Remember, have a light hand when you're working with this. We don't want to overwork it. Redistribute that flour again and kind of squish it together. Notice that I'm not working it very much. Put it there. Put a little bit more flour on the top. We'll roll this out a second time. No biggie. These are fast biscuits to make. We're not going to waste any of this dough. We'll just kind of put this together. And actually, I'm going to turn this into 2 little biscuits for my littler kids. And you can have fun with these if you want. You can do like a heart shape. Those are always fun to do. Now, wasn't that easy? No big deal. You can whip these up in no time. Now I'm going to take them and put them in a 450-degree oven. Yes, it's hot, but these cook really fast. I'm going to be putting mine on a baking stone, and if you have a new baking stone, you're going to want to make sure that you either have oiled it beforehand or put some cornmeal down, because we don't want your biscuits to be sticking to your stone. Now mine has been used so much, it's darkened and it almost has like non-stick properties, so I'm not doing any of that. But if you have a new stone, make sure you do that before you put these biscuits in. I'm just going to toss these right in on the hot stone, and this is very hot. We're just going to let these cook for 10 to 15 minutes until they're nice and golden brown. We're not going to open that oven at all. We're just going to let them do their thing in the oven. And hopefully, if I made them right, they're going to get nice and big and poofy and flaky. Yum, yum. What do you think, Grace? Yum, yum. Oh, they look wonderful. Now I want to quick show you something here. If you look at this biscuit here, you see how it's kind of smushed together and it didn't rise up. It rose up in the middle, but the sides kind of stuck together. That's because it wasn't a good clean cut. But then if you look at this biscuit over here, see how fat it rose? That's because it had a nice clean cut and it could rise right up. Same thing with this one. Nice flaky layers. Look at that. Oh, these are going to be wonderful. So that's why you want to make sure you use a nice sharp utensil when you're cutting these. Yum! All right, there. Apple biscuit. Okay. So that's how easy it is to make baking powder biscuits. If you want to change the flavor complex a little bit, you can add some spices and herbs to that flour and dry mixture part before you bake these. But they are a staple in our home. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, give it a thumbs up and make sure you comment below and let me know how your biscuits came out. And someone's giving me a thumbs up. Yay, Mary! Thumbs up! All right, and be sure to share this video with your friends. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you for our next video. Bye! Bye! Bye.